You are now listening to Beyond the Veil, a production of Holosuite Media. Tune in to our live show every Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
The following live broadcast may not be suitable for all ages. The views expressed in this show are solely those of the individual providing them and do not represent the opinion of this station, website, or any affiliated partners. Audience discretion is advised.
Hi, everyone, and a very warm welcome to Beyond the Veil, your weekly podcast about the secret world. This episode is being recorded on 12th of March 2015 during a live broadcast coming to you over twitch.tv/Holosuite Media starting at 7 p.m. EST. I'm your host, Antita, and joining me for the show tonight are Griff.
Hello.
Veritas.
Hi.
Xander.
Hi!
With a delay. Azithor.
G'day everyone.
Galactrix.
Hello.
Myth.
Hey everybody.
And Mr. Gray.
Good evening, Gotham City.
Good evening to you all. Good evening or good morning, depending on where you are in the world. So we have a really great show for you tonight, folks, with not only one, but two very special guests. Joining us tonight are Joel Bylos, formerly known as the Secret Worlds game director, and Romain Amiel, aka Tilty, the Secret Worlds lead designer. Hi, guys. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you. How are you?
All good. Thanks for having us.
So the reason you've come to the show is kind of twofold. We're going to be talking about the enhanced player experience update that went live yesterday. And we're also going to be discussing what kind of effect Joel's new role in Funcom will have, or maybe not have, on TSW in the future. So without further ado, because there's tons of questions that we have for you guys. Joel, let's start off with you. Your announcement that you'll be hanging your hat as Funcom's game director and taking on a new role within Funcom that requires your full focus has come as a great surprise to our community. First off, big congratulations. Sounds exciting. Even though we don't really know much about it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay. So, like, I don't know. Yeah, I don't. It's a bit of more of an organizational shuffle. I've been the creative director of Funcom for like 2 years or something at this point, and sort of under that hat, I've been doing the game director job on 2 and a bit. I haven't really been doing it on AO because they had a game director when I started, but I've been working with them a bit more as an advisor, and then Age of Conan and TSW, and now I'm just sort of that creative director role is still, it's just moving on to a focus on a different area, if you want. So it's, yeah, so I haven't really changed titles or anything, and I haven't really been promoted or anything else. I just have to focus.
You cut out. Just to let you guys know, Joel has some internet issues, so he might cut out at times.
It's Norway. Blame the snow.
Oh, is it cutting out?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know where it cut out, but yeah. Either way, I'm sort of, yeah. I'm like a free agent, just moving around Funcom, doing different stuff. It's fun.
So like,
Oh,
you're the
nice.
equivalent of an Arachi agent inside there now. You're like free and stuff.
I'm alive.
No, he's
though.
alive.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
originally
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
really
Don't
not
jinx him
something you want
there.
to aim at.
I'm like the Orochi agents that you'll meet in issue 11, actually.
He's the one that
Ooh.
lived.
Ooh.
He's the one with the
The
teddy
one
bear.
that lived to tell the tale, huh? So, just a tiny question. Does this new role of yours have anything to do, or will it have anything to do with the future of the secret world?
Oh, that's an interesting question. Not directly implied at the moment, at least. But I mean, I will continue to yell at the secret world people all the time.
Oh, great. I hear myself in the word people. And I'm
You're
sure you
usually
will.
the person I yell at, Romain. You know that. Everyone else thinks I'm nice except Romain.
Yeah.
Nobody on the project except everyone on the project thinks that I'm nice, and they
Mhm.
yeah, and Romain
And
hates
then you
me.
have the one
That's fine.
person who knows him, and there you go.
He knows the real you. And that must be an endearing thing because he still talks to you. So, and from what I hear, you guys are really good buds.
We are.
It's been a magical friendship thus far. This is actually, I have to say, this is like this sort of change for me it's kind of scary because Romain's not by my side and we've done everything at Funcom together to this point. So it's actually it scares me a lot because
Yeah,
I
me
trust
too.
him a lot.
I think like we've been working for Funcom like for about I think 9 years together, like really, and we have done like really almost everything together, and it's kind of we've grown I think together designers, we've made mistakes together, we've learned a lot, and we completely trust each other. So it's been fantastic, like going thus far, and then like being able to bring expertise to the secret world, and like this is it's a big change for you guys, but it's definitely a big change as well for me in my daily job. And the good side of it is like, since we're such good friends, like we will be speaking together like still almost every day. So any question kind of things, like Joel will still have like a strong influence for the game, like through me at least. So it's you guys have nothing to fear.
I was going to
And
ask
if Romain ignores me, I'll talk to Scott.
And this that.
You have your ins in more than one way, huh?
I'm that's the problem. And the problem is like I have to be very careful now because so much of the team are just used to listening to me, right? So I have to be very careful not to undermine other decisions, because if I see something in the game and I'm like, "Oh, that's shit," and then I go and talk to like the person whose job it is to fix that, it might not be what Romain wants, but then if I don't talk to Romain first, I might get in a lot of trouble.
Oh, you will.
Davichi says in chat room, lies, Joel got a higher desk now.
It's true. Yes, I got a. So, oh man, this is awesome. It's such a. It's actually going to make Funcom sound a bit bad, but whatever. we moved office.
Wow.
We moved office in Oslo like a while back, and the office manager refused to let me bring my stand-up desk because he was like, "No, we need all the desks in the new office to look pretty, and they all need to be uniform and the same height." So I wasn't allowed to have my stand-up desk, and I've been bitching and complaining for 2 years about that. And then last week, I was complaining. We're in a meeting about what's going on and what I'm doing now, and we're in that meeting, and I complained to somebody, and they were like, "Well, I'll sort it out for you." And the next fucking day, I got the stand-up desk back.
Oh, did you? Wow, I didn't know.
Nice.
And
Awesome.
I was so pissed. I
great.
went to the office manager, and I'm like, "Fuck you!" And he was like, "I'm only letting you do this because I couldn't be bothered to argue with you anymore."
Love it.
That's a win. That's a win.
So that's just a lesson to the rest of the Funcom employees how to behave in order to get their way.
Have such awesome desks as well. Like it's they're really cool.
Yeah, I've seen them. They look kind of comfortable, But I don't know. I was standing on my feet the whole time. But just now that my memory has kicked in, okay, there was something for the past 2 days I've been trying to figure out and try to remember, and I've been kicking myself over it, and I finally remember what it was. Back when we last, the last time, okay, so 2 times ago when we interviewed Joel, Joel asked us to ask you a question. So the next episode, well, not the next episode right after, but the next interview when we had you, Tilty, we asked you the question, and you said that you refused, that you would do it if we had him and you on in the same episode.
I'm so scared. Like,
So
literally,
here it
I've
is.
blocked all of this out of my memory, so I have no idea what you're
So
about
here
to
it
ask.
is. Now you can go back. You can go back and listen to the interview. It's like
Oh,
in the
no.
80s. It's in the 80s somewhere when you said this. Now that we have you both in the same studio, Joel had a nice little story he told us about you eating a sandwich. You know, it was the cheeseburger or whatever reference.
No, I am
and he
not
said
doing it.
that you have a really
No.
awesome way of saying honorable.
No.
Now Joel has asked us to ask you, okay, and you have said that you would say it if you both were here. So hi, there you
Oh,
go.
guys, I'm about to go under a tunnel right now, so...
Oh dear,
No.
Romain, I'm sorry. I just assumed we'd never be together on this show. I'm sorry.
I know. Oh, I planned this so carefully since then, and I completely
But now you
forgot.
have to do it, Romain. You understand that? Right?
No, but I have to do it. I can do it, which is so no.
Was it? Yeah, I don't know. I just it would be the honourable thing to do, Romain.
It would.
I'm sweating right now, literally just thinking about saying that word. It's no, it's the anti-French word. There's no way. I can't. I'm sorry.
So how do you say that in French?
Honorable.
So it sounds
They
something
just
like
put
that.
bull at the end.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
That was
song
the
I just
honourable thing to
block
do,
on.
Romain.
It's,
That was lovely.
I'm good
French is a
Awesome.
wonderful
in
language.
French,
It
I
was
think.
very nice, yeah.
I love it when
Ah.
Romain is like, when we're actually having conversations, Romain's like, I don't know the word in English, and then he says it in French, and I'm like, it's the same word. You're just pronouncing it like an idiot.
And the funny
Gosh.
thing is,
Wow.
Scrivener
And
Man
this is
turned
why
the
So
I
chat
don't
channel is going crazy.
hang on. Joel, you just
Oh
said
wait, Scrooge's
that-
in the chat channel? Ah,
Yeah.
he's gonna be loving this moment.
He's going crazy in the chat channel. He's saying, say it, honorable, glorious.
Say it. You know you want to. Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanted to say something
I'll
and now
see.
I
We'll
forgot.
try again later. I'll make a fool of myself after I've embarrassed myself enough. I can just finish it with the
Oh yeah,
clever,
we'll warm you up properly.
right. Great.
Hey,
Right now-
just curious before we get stuck into other things, where do your guys' nicknames come from?
Forum names? Or...
Yeah.
Nusquam and Tilty.
Mine's it's old actually. I think it's prior to my time at Funcom.
It's your
I think
EQ
it's,
name, isn't it?
Sorry?
That's your EQ screen name, isn't it?
Yeah, pretty much. It's yeah, that was the name of a character in EverQuest. It was actually originally Tilt, and I thought it was a very cool word in English when I found it. And then, because I'm adorable and all that stuff, everybody in my guild started calling me Tilty, and then it just stuck. The adorable part is very important.
Yeah, mine is just more like I wrote a short story once that won a competition, and yeah, that was the last line of the short story, and I liked the word, so I used it for a name.
Nice.
Nice.
So it
All
wasn't
right.
yeah. Usually use a different name in the games that I play, but I didn't want to have the same name in TSW because then everyone would be able to guess who I was from Age of Conan and all that stuff.
Whatever, hot sexy guy 69.
Indeed.
Now, Joel, you said on the forums that TSW has gone from strength to strength, and that's partly why Funcom was comfortable moving you onto a new project. However, it's hard not to see your move as being one less person working on TSW and Age of Conan. So how will your move affect the content release schedule?
It shouldn't affect the content release schedule, at least not for a period, right? Because everyone's working on issue 11, which is planned and sort of, planned and designed for the most part. And then going forward, I mean, when I was in the US now, that was part of what we did, was go through all the plans for the future, plan out the whole year. Tilty gets more responsibility in terms of having to put the actual plan into sort of a readable format for the designers and make sure that everyone's on board. But I mean, it's shouldn't affect much in terms of implementation.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it'll be that big of an issue because Joel's really Nevermind the Secret World is really like it's ahead of time. It's like it's a lot of like the creation of an issue, like everything which is going to be like from the story and then quality control of everything. But at the end of the day, like most of the actual implementation, everything is done in the Durham studio, like in the States.
Except cinematics,
And
don't sell Da Vinci short.
apart
We'll
from, of
crazy.
course, yes, cinematics are still done in Oslo. But the biggest thing that we have here is I want to say like the part which is actually a hindrance, like working on a game across the ocean, is whenever we have issues or actually require George release stamp of approval. Various times, you have to wait the next day, you need to discuss it, the next day, like the information is not as fresh anymore what you wanted to discuss, and you lose some time in implementation. And now, like, all of this is actually not going to be a problem anymore because, I mean, literally, it'll be my stamp of approval instead, so we'll be able to go faster and just getting straight to an action and move forward. So, yeah, if we do this well, we might actually be able to go faster, like in terms of content creation, and hopefully we won't lose any of the quality that we got from Joel.
Yeah, I feel
That's
like an
awesome.
anchor. I feel like an anchor when you say that. Joel's weighing down the dev team with all those decisions he forces us to
You know
weigh
it.
on.
That's exactly what I said.
So there's a part of the community that with this new change feels like the future of the entire game is almost the future of the entire game is in question. Joel, you've been involved in the game for such a long time and people have come to depend on you leading it in the right direction. How will your game director duties now be divided between the current team? We know that most of those responsibilities will be taken over by Tilty. Are there any other members of the team that will take on some new duties as well?
Oh, for sure. Like so like Tilty, I'm not trying to insult you here, but I mean, Scrib's better at the story stuff, right? So
It really is.
So like yeah, no, so like I guess part of what I do is like I'm always high level. I mean, it's the job of a game director to be high level. And Romain and I have had a good relationship in terms of like I'm good on certain things. I'm much stronger, for example, on story, but Romain's much stronger on gameplay. So we have a good synergy there. And so Romain will more of the decision making part of the gameplay, just making sure that everything's sort of up to scratch and on quality. Josh and I have done the story chats, and we still do the story chats. Josh contacted me today to ask me about something in the story. So Josh will take over more of the story overview. You'll have NoFX is the producer. Scott, he's always been the silent partner, if you want. He doesn't say much, but he's had equal decision making power on TSW for as long as I have. Like we've had equal positions. He's just more of a manager than a creative
Just making
person.
sure that things happen and that they come out on time.
Yep. And so, I mean, he'll continue to do that, and and then I think like otherwise, like Drivek will probably take on a little more, but it's not a lot. It's sort of things like issue covers and things like that. That's usually a team discussion anyway, where sort of I make the final say. But we have a discussion about what we think the issue cover should be, and we all give feedback and all have our thoughts. The title of issues, things like that. Like I used to decide the title of issues, but I never did that without talking to Josh and the team, sort of thing. So it's generally, I think it's just like I'll be out of the process, but most of the people who were in the process before will still be.
And it's what I was explaining. I mean, earlier as well in some of the other interviews we had. It's not going to be that big a change, like as far as the team is concerned, because as Joel just mentioned, a lot of the thing that we do, we already do as a team. Joel is really going to come up like with the high level concept, for example, of an issue, like the red thread of the stories and what to tell. Josh is going to help him then define of saying, exactly what is the kind of information we want to say, like, from each of the characters. And my job is going to go into the details is, now that we have the story, how are we going to tell it? Like, in terms of gameplay, in terms of atmosphere, and what it is that we can do to transcribe this into something that the player is going to experience, taking it out of the paper. And all this kind of stuff is always going to stay the same. Like, all three of us in particular have always been involved, like, right from the start into getting those stories. And this is going to stay the same. Like, Joel just came to Durham, like, and he stayed with us for a couple of weeks, and we literally went over, as we're talking, like, the next, like, up to issue 26, 28, I can't remember. Like, we went through really, really, really a long time in the future to try to really define everything we wanted to say. What is going to be defining each of the issues, what is important about the stories, what we want you to learn, what we want to tease you about. And we even went into, like, branching out, like, to try so we are able to react on new guys. If you come out with an issue and it just really doesn't work, like, you guys say, okay, this kind of a gameplay or anything is really bad, we'll be able to react right away, saying, okay, guys, we're going for plan B, and then, sound a few alarms in the office, and then get ready for the shift if we need to do it.
Nice. It's good to know that you guys have a plan B. It's always helpful.
We are prepared. we have all the way to a plan Z if we need it.
Nice.
No, I mean, it's one of the things that we need to be. I guess, like, I think we learned some lessons when we were doing Tokyo and we didn't have a plan B and stuff like that. So I think it's something that we've learned for the future, is that we can plan multiple options during a year and slide those options in when we need them and where we need them. And, like, I've always tried to sort of make sure that the game has I mean, it's not been great for PvPers in terms of content releases, but I try to maintain, like, a relatively balanced sort of content release schedule. Like, if we're doing an event that has group elements, then we might be also doing a solo stuff that comes out later, and sort of trying to maintain different things for the player base to do, different things for people to do all the time. And I think it's really important that we have those options as well going forward. So I think, yeah, there's a really nice plan on the table, at least, I think, with the guys. So
Could I just quickly come in here? I'm the PvPer here. And it's interesting you brought up the PvP content, and I don't want to derail the conversation, but will these storylines at all integrate any of the PvP element of it?
if they do the one that I've designed, then yes.
Okay, thanks very much.
Right. We're going to be blamed if anything happens. Fantastic.
No, come on, Romain. You know that it was you whining to me about a certain game that you played that did a certain PvP thing for so long that I went, okay, fuck it, we'll do that in TSW as well. Then you.
I'm the PvPer here.
No, there's
you
a lot
can
of
always
stuff.
blame Tomium.
We have plans for PvP. I mean, to answer your question, we have actually even several of them. So we're going to see again. As usual, I mean, I always give the same answer. It's going to depend on time and priorities. But we have a lot planned, at least for PvP. So we don't know yet when and how we're going to do it. But
I've said it before, and I know PvPers hate when I say this, but it's the honest truth. I always get pushback from management because monetizing PvP is really hard. It's hard if 5% of our players play PvP and we sell an issue that's PvP and we sell something to 5% of our people, that's not enough to pay for it.
I absolutely appreciate where you're coming from, but I would suggest that the PvPers are quite a loyal bunch. So it's quite good to hear that there's plans going ahead. So
absolutely. No, I'm just telling you the difficulties we face because we might want to do PvP, but it's not necessarily easy to do PvP.
No,
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. I do. Oh yeah. Well, yeah. I've been here for quite a few years, and yeah, we appreciate that. We know that's happened, but if there's things going ahead, and we do understand that there is limitations.
Well, it just means we need to be clever, right? It means we need to design something that appeals to.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean,
what about
again,
PvP
I don't want to derail.
costumes, hey? That'd be something that might.
Well, we'll come across the PvP costumes because there was one change when it comes to PvP costumes that we can talk about later.
But on this whole thing of pushback. Joel, over the last 2 years, you've told us a couple of stories where you've gone into bat for the players when marketing or upper management had what you considered some rather dubious ideas. How confident are you that the development team will be able to pursue and defend their own vision for the game without undue influence now that you're no longer there?
I think it'll be as good and even better because I'll be more of a neutral party now, and that means I can even go more of a bulldog attack on people, and it won't be like, oh, Joel's just defending his own projects. It'll be like, okay, Joel's outside of this now, and he still thinks we're being idiots, so therefore maybe we should think about it a bit more. So I think that's, I don't know, I think it'll be better.
I love it.
To be honest, like nobody deliberately makes bad decisions. Sometimes bad things happen and people make stupid decisions. And we try to improve as a company every time that happens. And the Mankini is a perfect example. That will never happen again in the way that happened. And that is because there was a discussion afterwards. There was me being very angry. I actually put my resignation on the table about that and said, like, you know what, guys, if you don't want to discuss this, you can take it. I'll quit. And we came to a conclusion, and we came to a way that this will never happen again. And I think that was the right discussion to have. It was very important.
It's good when even the negative things that happen end up having a positive effect in the future, or a positive outcome in the future. So that's good to know.
That is good to know. On maybe a slightly more cheerful note, what do you think is the most important thing that you've learned during your time with the Secret World team?
You want to go first on that one, Tilty?
Yeah. I'm still with the Secret World, so I still have plenty to learn.
I think there was more a question for you, Joel.
Oh, wow. I think it's probably a lesson about not being afraid to try things that I believe will work, and not be afraid to change the, like when I started I was less confident in changing some of Ragnar's plans, like Tokyo. So issue 5, 6, and 7 were kind of my design, like my things. Issue 8 as well. I have to take credit for the scenarios as well, in terms of like they were my sort of general vision. But Tokyo was always Ragnar's vision, and I wanted to work on that. We wanted to get to that eventually, and I know I've said before that like one of my regrets is that we didn't just chop Tokyo, because it took a lot of time from the team, and we could have done it in a different way. So I think a lesson learned is just being like very confident in our abilities as storytellers, our ability to deliver as a team. I think 6 and 7 are fantastic issues that did amazing things, and 5 as well, of course. But I think like those should have been enough to bolster us to say, okay, we can do Tokyo in the same way, smaller, more focused, and just make sure they're very interesting story threads. So I feel like, yeah, I maybe learned that maybe I just, let's say, slavishly worried about how people will think about things. As long as things are good, they'll be happy.
I would think that would be a super useful thing to learn. We had a related question too from Bright Moon over on the forums. Bright Moon was wondering if you could travel back in a time tomb to the day when you first took over as game director, what advice would you give your younger self?
It's a great question.
Yeah, wow. Let's see.
We're making you think. I'm so
yeah,
sorry.
no, I mean,
it's late.
it's like I have to reflect on things. You're gonna make me cry, actually. No, it'd be like, don't. I think I've learned a little more about like being less emotional about things people are saying on the forums, for example. Like, don't get upset when people don't know what's happening behind the scenes here. Because sometimes I was very angry or disheartened. Sometimes it demotivated me a lot. Stuff that I read on the forums that like I was like, I can't tell them why they're wrong, but they are, sort of thing.
That's got to be frustrating, yeah.
Okay, this is a question from Start. Of all the additions and changes to TSW during your time as game director, which are you most satisfied with?
Is my mic working again? It cut me off, I think, before.
Yeah,
can hear you
it's
now.
for you.
Okay, cool. The thing I think that I think buy-to-play was a huge deal. I think it was a good move for the game. I think that the issue format, turning it into like a story focused, getting like Tyler Freeborn was the beginning, and then 6 and 7 and 8 and 9 and 10 have all followed that same format. I think that was really important to get that serial sort of here's a story format going, to be able to continue to tell stories in Secret World. I think those are really important and impacting to the structure of the way the team works and the way the game works. It helps us focus as a team to do things that way. I think those were probably the biggest actual structural things that I'm quite happy with.
I think if I could go there, I would probably go and slap him when he started mentioning the words Tokyo and urban playfields.
It's like Tilty's revenge.
I don't know why you would slap me. You should slap Ragnar. Why is that my fault?
It's true. But hey, you were the game director, so you have to take the slaps for the others.
No.
That's how
You
it works.
did say, Joel, that one of your biggest regrets was agreeing to do Tokyo because it was just too much.
I mean, that's the thing. Tokyo was designed for a team of 300 people or 200 people or whatever we were at launch to work on. And the fact that I didn't want, and we'd announced it publicly and all this stuff, and I didn't want to take it away from the fans of TSW. Right? I didn't want to take it away after we'd promised it to you guys. But my regret is that maybe it doesn't need to be the format that it is. It could have been a smaller format like issue 6 or 7. Like it didn't. We made it a playfield because that's what we've told people we were doing. And I think that there's ways we could have done the Tokyo story without spending as much time as we did. And I think that time really hurt us.
Yeah, I really feel like it's really when you work in industry you understand those things, but the artists who work on Tokyo did an amazing job. It's like doing urban environment is so difficult, it's so time consuming, and they had very little time, and what they put together is just really, I mean, it amazes me like every day. So they did a fantastic job, and I think if you guys want to say thank you to someone, it's the artists really deserve that thanks.
Nice. Well, how about what stands out most for you, making TSW a unique experience as a game, and then also what stands out as unique about working with the team?
Well, I mean, TSW as a game, there's nothing like it in my opinion. I think the closest thing I ever played was Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, and that's one of my favorite games ever, so it's no surprise that I borrowed some of their ideas to make our game feel a bit more like that. But I don't know. TSW, it's a unique setting, but I think it's all the details that bring the setting to life, and that's one thing I love about Funcom. We're really good at details. We're really the story is detailed. I mean, I love the way we tell stories through quests in TSW. I think that our quests are just a cut above anything else in the industry.
High five, Joel. Bloodlines was awesome.
Yep. And so I feel like, I don't know, I'm very proud of that stuff. I think it's great. And as for the team, I don't know, it's just a great group of people. We have a really good rapport. I've worked with, I tend to get along well with most people I work with, so it's hard for me to say. I worked on the expansion for Age of Conan, and that was a great team, and we had a great time working on that. But the current TSW team, I just feel like everybody gets it, and they're in a really nice sort of groove, if you want, and people, I don't know, they're all personalities that I know, and I love them all, and there's nothing there's nothing lacking in that team. They're amazing people, and every single one of them really works hard and does their job well and professionally, and
You might have cut off.
Yeah, it's for once he's saying something nice and he cuts off. Fantastic.
Where was I? Am I back?
Yeah,
Yes.
you didn't say anything nice. You can start again from the beginning.
Okay.
I'm recording you.
everybody's awesome on the team except Tilty.
Ah, there you go.
And no, I mean, I love the team. I have. There's a team in Oslo that I haven't worked with as much as I've worked with the team in the US. And it's very interesting because I have respect and trust, and there's this great mutual relationship with the US team, and I don't have that rapport in Oslo at all that I need to build now. So it's going to be interesting.
Just as a side note, when it comes to Tokyo, we have someone in Twitch chat who has said, for what it's worth, Joel, the rest of you, I think that Tokyo is the best zone I have ever played in an MMO. So there you go.
Oh, that's really nice to hear. That's lovely.
All right, well, here's a question for both of you, so you can have a little bit of a death match over who answers this first. But over your time since release, and you've been doing all the updates and the issues, which has been your favorite update while working with the Secret World team, and why?
Go, Tilty, go.
My favorite update, it's probably I would say issue 7. Working on the Sleepless Lullaby. Like I love music. I love anything that has to do like usually with music, and this entire issue. We try to build so much the story based on a song from a friend, person I know. Like I think I mentioned the story before, but I'll say it again. Scriv and I were literally went out in Montreal one night, and then to listen to a concert from a friend of someone we knew. And as part of this concert, she started singing this song, The Sleepless Lullaby, and literally Scriv and I just looked at each other saying like, this song belongs in TSW. And went back to work, started to talk to Joel about it, saying like, we've listened to this song, we want to do something about it. Joel was like, well, I was thinking about doing this issue, which has something to do with like a creepy nursery that would be perfect. And we started twisting the story to try and find a way to integrate that song as part of it. And it was just amazing to work with. Like, it was amazing to work with the artist in particular, seeing how we could actually integrate that song to it, like giving meanings to the lyrics, giving gameplay to it, trying to find a way to even disassociate every single tracks from the song, so we could use them as background noise like throughout the game, so that even though like there are times where you're not actually listening to the lyrics, the song is still there, the beat of the song is still in there. So as a mood from a player, you're never taken out, which is why I think it's so visceral when you play like particularly through the dream session, because it's literally there everywhere in one way or another. And I've learned a lot. For me, it was like a challenge which I never faced before. It was very exciting. I'm really happy with the results. I was happy, like even the feedback that we got from the player was great, and it was scary. It was something that we had never done, and with everything that's never been done before, it's always a risk. You never know how people are gonna take it, and it was very satisfying to get it out of the way and to get people happy with it.
That was my favorite issue.
Yay!
That issue was just unbelievably good.
And I love the music. I've actually still got that on my alarm. That is my alarm in the morning.
Hello, I walk into empty, get up, brush your teeth, go to work now.
That is scary.
Just like
I know.
But I think like we have a fantastic like audio team. Like they've already done a fantastic job. Here it was really like one of the first time we got someone external as well to work with us, and everybody was so accommodating. Like our sound designers were fantastic in helping those artists like find a way to re-record their music to do something which was usable within the game. And I think the only time we'd done something like this before was actually I just got reminded when we started the show, because you're using the Siren song. At the beginning of the show, and this like the person singing, I think we mentioned it before, is this person who used to work for Funcom called Alisa Minareto, and she's a singer from Montreal who actually works as well like in the game industry, and she happens to have an amazing voice. And you know, since the day I met her, I was like, okay, I absolutely want you to do something in the game. Like I've been pushing Joel and other people to say like, she's amazing. We need something with a voice. And then eventually it just landed. I think Ragnar came up with the Siren song. You're getting her to sing, or I can't remember who actually eventually signed the plan. Maybe it was you, Joel, directly.
I
But she
wrote
just
the
went in
story mission design, and part of that
You did,
required you to follow the siren song. But like that hadn't. I just
Who
said
was
we need a
actually gonna do
siren
it,
song. Yeah.
And yeah, it was amazing. Like we just asked Elisa, you know, when to grab out the desk, saying, "Do you mind coming to the recording studio for a second?" And then, you know, she had no idea what was going on. It was like, "Okay, just go in this microphone and go la la la, and you know, just make it good." And she was like, "La la la, is that okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, that's fantastic." And yeah, and literally what you got in there was pretty much like the first take from it. It's really, really amazing singer, like and fantastic person.
I have told. Oh,
I was
thank
going
you.
to, sorry, I was just going to add that the love of music definitely does come through with the whole of the game, and the Christmas quest, the magic flute, I thought was really good. It was really genius.
I have told a
It
number of
was.
people. Oh,
And
sorry.
oh, sorry. I'm just gonna just to go quickly on the magic flute. I mean, all of this came straight out of Joel's amazing imagination. Like I do compliment him once in a while, and it was just a great idea. It was actually it happened really fast. Like, you know, we'd had other plans to do originally. I mean, Joel, I think, had mentioned his plans for a long time. Very expensive designs, and we're like, okay, we need to do something. We don't have time to do this. Like, you know, it's taking too much time away from actually issue 10 at the time. So we're like, we need to find something that we can do. And yeah, we came with the idea again of using music. I mean, Joel was like, we need to use the magic flute and then see what we can do with this. And yeah, as a team afterwards, and again with our amazing sound director, like we came with the songs, we came with the gameplay with it, and it's even myself was surprised by the end on, you know, how quickly we managed to pull this through and to get all the mechanics working, and it's I was happy with the result. It's and I'm usually difficult to satisfy, so
That
it was great.
was really good. That was really, really good. Really enjoyed that.
Our sound designer is so talented, by the way, that he works, well, there's two of them, but they work on 4 games at Funcom, and also he composes all the music for the Dreamfall Chapters games.
Nice. No, I was just mentioning on Siren Song, I have told a number of people, and I stand by this, that is the only Siren Song that I've heard that to me actually sounds like a Siren Song. Like I've heard things like that in other games, and they're not something I would follow. This one I would follow. Like it works.
I agree.
Then it achieves its purpose. That's
Mhm.
good.
Yes.
We did call Elisa Siren for a very long time because we were all surprised that she can achieve this type of like
What a legacy.
charming. Yeah.
Oh, come on. There was
Why
a couple
did
of guys
she
who
keep
followed her
luring
around.
employees to their deaths?
She definitely had the figure that matched the voice as well, so she could work as a siren. She probably is.
Nurse.
So, what's your favorite update, Joel?
So I guess, like, I mean, it's hard because I like Romain said, I do the high level stuff for most of them, so it's sort of like, I remember, so issue 5 was really interesting, and I'll tell you a story about me and Tilty, if I'm still on. Am I cut off yet?
No,
Not yet,
you're
but
not.
I might be hoping you do
It'll
soon.
probably happen in a second. No. So the Tyler Freeborn missions were not at all connected to each other. They were not a story. They were all designed as separate missions. And I decided that was when we were going to play, and I decided that we needed to try and tell stories coherently, more so than just one mission or.
No, you cut out.
I was about to say something nice again.
Line as best
Yeah,
I could.
You've cut, Joel. You're saying like, yeah, we're meant to be.
Am I back?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Yeah, no, so they were meant to be separate missions, the Tyler Freeborn stuff. They were recorded as separate like missions and like not to be related to each other. And I decided that we needed to do this coherent mission design stuff in the issues, and this was kind of the proof of concept. And I went to my right-hand man, my favorite person in the world, Tilty, and I said, right, here's how I've connected all the missions. Can you make this happen? And he was like, yeah, in 4 weeks, probably. Which was, I remember because we worked on that for 4 weeks, and Romain did almost all of the implementation of Tyler Freeborn, which was insane. It was an insane thing to put on somebody, and it was so much work.
I agree.
And you were working your ass off, as I recall. And then the last week or something, you were only focused on the final instance, whereas the other guys were all like, we had the other gameplay designers helping out on polishing up the other 3 missions, but you were on the last one. So that was really cool, and as a proof of concept, I think it was really well received, and it gave me confidence in the plans that we had for issues going forward. But then, like, issue 6 was totally... I've always wanted to make that fucking train. And we talked about it on Age of Conan. Like, Romain and I talked about this stuff so long ago, and I was like, we can totally do this. We can totally make this happen in our technology. And we can make it happen in an MMO. And I don't think anyone believed us until we actually managed to do it. But like, I sold the team up on doing that in 6, and I really wanted to see it, and it worked. And it looks really good, I think. So, and again, like that, you know, the idea was mine in terms of like, this is what we need to do, but the implementation and the sort of making it work is all Romain. That's what he's great at. So I have to give credit there.
I think it's one of the things which is interesting for us, like with Joel, is the fact that we've worked for a very long time with our engine and with our tools. On when we worked together on even on Age of Conan before, like it was the same tools. I want to say, like they have improved obviously over the years, but it gives us a chance when we get bored of doing the same thing over and over. Like we try to challenge ourselves, and we challenge ourselves like creatively. And then we also try to push the technical limitations of our engines, and we're always like, okay, when most of the time when we implement something, we're going to come across something that we'd never seen before, an artifact, and those artifacts are very inspiring, saying, oh wow, we could do this. We have a way of doing this these things seamlessly, and then we try them out, and if they don't work, I work until it does. But for example, like concrete example is working on the train. I don't want to spoil the magic behind it, but some of the section which involve like on the train going, like the session that you go under the tunnel, when you have like the one of the carts is set on fire, you have the tank turning around, like destroys the cart behind you, and then you enter this tunnel. This entire section has when we did this is the reason why when you go into the dreamscape, like Emma's dreamscape, the entire section where you're going aimlessly through the corridors, and you have like this kind of an infinite gameplay where you go through the corridors, those two are directly linked. Like if we hadn't done the train, this section in the dreamscape would have never happened. So I'll let you try to figure out why, but it was great for us.
Cool.
Yeah. That was cool. I think issue 6 was one of my favorite issues because of the train. It was one of the first things I saw, like at the end of that episode, and I'd never seen anything like that before. The moving, and then it's kind of the seamless way the train seems to go on and on and on. Like that was stunning.
For hours and hours and hours.
Yeah, we know it can go on for like 14 hours.
I love I'm sorry, you guys are probably gonna be like, damn you, Joel, but like, it's one of the things where I laugh at player feedback because I don't really care when I see something like, I don't like this because in issue 5 I could farm signets in 5 minutes, and now that you've made a train that makes me take 40 minutes to get my signet bag. I don't care. You know what? That's one thing I really don't care about.
Yeah, I don't play that mission for the signet bag. I play it just because it's cool and I want to see all the characters in the storyline. Yeah,
exactly. I mean, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, our goal was never to, like, make a signet farm there really easy. That's not the point. So.
Okay, yeah. I have a question. Sorry. I have a question from Nordavind from the forums. This is for Joel. When you're done with the thing that you can't talk about, would you consider coming back to TSW as the game director again?
Sorry, I just got cut out when you said I have a question, so if you want to just take it again really quickly.
Okay, this is from Nordavind in the forums. When you're done with the thing you can't talk about, would you consider coming back to TSW as the game director again?
Yep, for sure. Absolutely. No problem.
No, God, I'll be sitting in his chair, my chair.
Will they want me back? That's a different question.
I'm pretty sure I can speak for the entire team that say we would definitely welcome him back with open arms.
But yeah, I mean, I love TSW. I would, yeah. You have no
But
idea.
it's a thing,
I love
like,
TSW so much. There's so many things I want to do with this brand of TSW as well. Not just the MMO, but more things we can do that I'd love to do. So yeah, yeah. Anytime, any place, anyone who wants to throw money at us, I'm happy to do whatever.
It's a thing. I really don't want people like to worry too much about this, because it's like, Joel is still a part of Funcom. Like, Joel and I are really good friends. We talk every day, like whether it's about work or about random things, and so his influence will be there on the Secret World, like almost as much as before. Like we still discuss everything. Like, I'm sure, and I hope he will ask me for advice on whatever he's about to do next. But that's sort of been the way we've worked, and I think it's kind of ingrained in our like day-to-day routine that he'll still be here. It's just his forum title has changed. That's about it.
Well, and I won't be like TSW. We have meetings every day, and I won't be in those meetings every day anymore. So I'll be out of the loop a lot more.
Okay. Are there any plans to upgrade TSW's engine or to optimize the client for more modern graphics cards?
I don't really know what they mean by optimizing the client for more modern graphics cards, because that kind of happens automatically, most of the time at least. We're not going to upgrade to Dreamworld 3.0, so no, it's not going to get any upgrades in that sense. But I mean, we still do our own tech work on the engine with our team in North Carolina.
Yeah, as far as optimization, we optimize all the time. Whenever we can, like any kind of issues that we find out, we always try to improve things. But it's at the same time, because of the matter of cost and priorities that we talk about always. So it's always like, depending on how things are, like we're going to go in a situation where you might have to choose like between a new feature and optimizing something that already exists. So this is when we're going to make a call of saying, okay, well, this is still probably good enough. It's better to get this new feature. It's going to get more people excited about. And then, so yeah.
Nice. All right. So now let's talk more about the enhanced player experience update that just went live. For those players who don't really read the patch notes, and from experience, I know there's a whole bunch of them. Tilty, maybe you could provide us with an overview as to what's been updated and changed this time around.
That's going to be a long overview. I should have taken all my notes.
Just a quick overview. Well, don't worry, we'll remind you.
I mean, the biggest thing I'll just say, like the quickly, the reason behind it is we've heard a lot of feedback. We've heard a lot of people who have been interested into the Secret World because of its story. They wanted to play the game, but literally couldn't, like because of overall the difficulty of the games. Like there were sections that they simply could not beat. They were getting frustrated by things and would end up, quitting the game. When at the end of the day, they still wanted to know more about the story. So we tried to, like, we looked at our game and we tried to ease out the player throughout the entirety of the game. So by this, like, we looked at the difficulty, the overall difficulty of the game, like starting from Kingsmith, like all the way to Transylvania. And then we tried to iron out all the bumps that were there, like in the difficulty curve. We made the beginning like slightly easier, and then from there we just tried to ramp up the difficulty linearly. I want to say it's not even a curve anymore, all the way to Transylvania. And then on top of it, we started having a look. Like we looked at everything that could make sure that the player was good at the game, like felt good about it, like would not get too overwhelmed as long as they were really only interested in the story. So we decided to go back and improve the rewards that you would get from the action missions you have in the game, as well as the side stories, as the story mission, making sure the reward from the story mission were good, because let's face it, like getting a blue glyph from completing the story mission in Kingsmith was kind of a disappointment. So we looked at it and making sure that people were happy playing the game and felt like we were getting more powerful. And that was, I think, the biggest thing of the NP. That was the first reasoning of like, let's do this and let's try to make sure people can now go and play the game and enjoy the story. After that, I think, as I mentioned before, like I've had a list of I had a to-do list that I've shared with Joel and many people, like based on feedback that my personal feedback I've heard from players and from the other designers or team members, of things that we would like to fix if we ever got the chance. And that was me bringing about my list in there and then putting everything, saying, oh, we need to do this and this and this. And then this is when it goes, we were talking about earlier with the conversation with Scott, like the producer of the game. This was, me trying to add as much as I could in this enhanced player experience. Until we say stop. Okay, that's enough. Now we need to start concentrating on issue 11.
And it's really important that you guys understand just how sneaky Romain can be about this stuff. It's because Scott's like, okay, we'll do these 5 things, and then the patch notes come out and there's 15 things, and Scott's like, wait, where did all those things come from? And Romain's like, oh, I convinced this person to do an hour overtime.
Just happened.
All right, this was easy, so we sort of snuck it in here. Or the artists were happy to do this, and yeah, he gets a lot of shit done just by bullshitting Scott. It's kind of funny.
I speak French to people and it works all the time. This is my siren sound.
That's awesome.
And now we know.
And you heard it here first, folks. Tilty gets shit done.
But like, this is why we wanted, like, to add like the fast travel. It was something, I mean, literally, like, this was even a design, I think, originally from Joel. Like, we knew, like, even before launching, like, we need to add this in the game. Like, we knew when the game was going to launch, thing, like, people are just going to do like /reset all the time in order to get the convenience of traveling faster. And we're like, okay, let's try to find a way to make this happen, like, and make it work. And we had Glaucon, like, that you all know, like, worked really hard on trying to make sure we get this working, and we came up with a design. I'm so proud of the team, like, for everything that was done, because with the amount of time that we spend, we've done so much. And I think, like, there's so many quality of life and so many like visual improvements as well, like the early changes that we've done. We had like the animators and the FX artists were like, okay, looking at this, like, what can we do? Like, we have only like a couple of hours to spend on each of these abilities. What can we do? How can we make it fit? What can we make it that's going to make it snappier and having people more excited to use those abilities? And it all came out like together, and I'm really, really happy like that.
Raging
all the effort that the
Volcano
team
is
has put
awesome.
through. Yeah.
That was one of the first abilities that I ended up testing on the test live, and it was like, wow, awesome.
Yeah, it looks so much better. Before it looked like you were sitting on an invisible chair and like kind of being pushed around. So yeah, that was great.
No, definitely the feedback from the community when it comes to changes done to the elite abilities, the visual ones, have been really, really good. Some people have been mentioning that certain visual effects are like maybe disorienting to a few of them, or that there was one player who I think said that he or she might be getting a headache, or that is getting a headache from it. So I guess you can't please everyone, but overall the feedback has been absolutely terrific when it comes to the visual changes.
Well, and for the new player stuff, I started up another alt last night because, of course, I had to check it out and poke at it, and it was wonderful. I honestly am super, super impressed with how the new game looks compared to when I was starting my other characters.
Oh, that's great to hear. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just to
Thank
answer
you.
quickly on now I can't remember the name of the ability. Hold on.
Fluid defense?
Fluid defense, thank you very much. Yes, this one I've seen a lot of people complaining about it, and it came as a surprise to us as well as everybody else when we were like, "What the hell is this?" Because that was not intended. And just to show you again how a game works, I mean, literally, it was another particle that was updated on a completely different ability, and we didn't realize that this particle instead, because normally we clone everything on abilities to make sure we don't get this kind of dependencies, and in this particular case it had been done before launch, like quickly. I won't say it, but probably by a fairly junior person at the time, and which means when we edited the actual ability, it affected this ability as well, and created like this gigantic, like kind of blinding aura that we obviously did not want. So
There was something else connected to the elite abilities that you've posted about today, Tilty. You want to bring us up to speed on that?
Sure. So this one is the thing that makes people dislike us. But sadly, it's the kind of thing that has to happen. So as you know, I mean, like people have been talking about the great AoE nerf of 2015. You know, like the history books will probably mention it in a few years. But there's two things I want to say. So one, the AoEs, we decided to nerf the AoEs slightly. I mean, the nerf is very little, and a lot of the people who started going and actually doing tests to those nerfs realized like they barely see the difference. What we wanted AoEs to be used to actually AoE monsters. So we wanted to try, when someone sees you're going to have 3 or more monsters attacking you, I'm going to start using an AoE. What we were saying instead is a lot of people were using AoE builds all the time, and you would be attacking one monster and using your AoE builds. The only time you would switch to single target is like if you had a boss who had a large amount of health, then okay, yes, single target was better. So we tried to redefine this. And we did it. We nerfed the AoEs by a small percent. I mean, the actual percent is 17%, so it's tiny. And we were happy with this. Like, it worked better. It made like single target abilities better at what they're supposed to do. But the way we do this is by going through every single ability in the game, looking at the formulas and making sure that everything is fine. And as we did this, we realized that some abilities, again, pre-launch abilities, had actually been broken the entire time. Like Raging Volcano is one of them, Shotgun Wedding, all of these were actually using single target formulas, which mean everybody loved them because they felt, they didn't felt overpowered, they felt great. Like you were doing single target damage to a lot of NPCs around you, so you're like, yeah, this is a great AoE to use, so I'm going to use it. From our perspective, it's like, wow, this is doing single target damage. Too many players, this is way too good. Like we need to use the AoE formula on this because that's what they were originally intended to be. So we changed those abilities to be AoEs, but because of the other nerf that happened at the same time, that means suddenly those abilities got like a 50% damage reduction, which is huge, and we definitely understand this, but it had to happen. So a lot of people now are going and doing passes, and passes who involve those abilities make it look like the nerf was way more powerful than it was really intended, and it's a side effect. And as I said on the post, like, I'm sorry about it, but it needs to be this way. And I'm hoping that after people have cooled down and we realize that we're not just mean developers and we did this to be mean to everyone, like they'll go back and play like with all existing AoEs and feel like those abilities still belong into an AoE build. They're still just as good as all the others, and it's going to give them all the freedom of build making as they had before.
So they would change for consistency rather than power level problems?
Mostly,
yeah. I told people that we weren't nerfing people, and yeah, it turned out that I lied.
There was a number of people who brought that up.
Yeah, but the thing is, like, that's the point. Our reasoning was not about nerfing people. There's a couple of things we need to look at. A few things we need to address in the game, like the incredible power spikes that people can have in DPS. Like, it's insane, and Romain and I don't like it because it makes it hard to design. It makes it hard to design something that works for less than elite players.
Oh, you cut off.
But yeah, I mean, I'll just take on to what he left, because I mean, it's true. Like, we're seeing, and yes, we see. I mean, these things about the games that we work within. We know that the build system is extremely powerful. Like, there are combinations, like there are millions of combinations possible. So of course we haven't checked every single one of them. And you guys, like all the players, are fantastic at finding those things that are going to give you those amazing bursts that allow you to do the Euro Drag and the Polaris in 6 seconds. And a part of me is impressed by this. I'm like, wow, that's really cool that they managed to find a way to do this, because we thought this fight was going to last a minute, and they got it to 6 seconds. There was a part of luck, but a part as well of very good, like, kind of a number crunching. And yeah, so as Joel is saying, like, there's a way, like, there's a part of us that's like, okay, we need to be careful with those spikes, because literally it could break things. It could, make encounters that we want to be difficult suddenly be able to go through. And these, we have tools on our end to avoid this in the future. But this nerf in particular had nothing to do with this. A lot of people are trying to find reasoning behind it. They're saying, okay, like, they wanting to nerf because they hate players being able to solo group scenarios, for example. And I mean, these I don't mind. Like, if people have the equipment and everything to be able to do some kind of group scenarios and AoE them, is fine. This AoE nerf, like, it had it coming, like, literally, like, since the day it was launched. Like, a few months after launch, we realized that AoE were more powerful than we intended it to be. We didn't have enough data at the time to really maybe see it early enough to do it pre-launch, but since then it had been on our to-do list, that I mentioned earlier, which is absolutely gigantic by now. And this was just the right time to do it. So okay, now we have time, because it takes a long time to go back through all the abilities and updating each of the formulas. It's not something that we just run a script and it does everything automatically. We have to manually go back and fix everything and look at them, making sure that something should be an AoE, something shouldn't, and we try to do everything, like, thoroughly. So we got this time for the NP, say let's do it now. And then yeah, and we knew people would be upset. Like, we didn't think they would be that upset, but I was glad today, because literally I was wondering why people were, giving us passes or saying, "Oh, my damage has been reduced by 70%." We were like, "That's impossible." And then, of course, I found out that those abilities were changed from single target damage formula to AoE damage formulas. Actually hadn't been listed in the patch notes. So, I went around, slapped a few people, and got the patch note updated, and we were on board again.
Would you consider relooking at the cooldowns for those AoE elites that are now less powerful?
We do, yeah. I mean, we involve everything when the cooldown in the formula. It's actually the only thing which is not involved. But like anything which is channeled and times, like we like casting time, we pay attention, and like in how we're going to balance the damage. As I mentioned before, like the elite revamp is step one of a revamp. We are now like looking at data of things that we've done. We're looking at changing again some of the abilities, like based on the repercussion that they had. Some of them having like stronger repercussion on PvP. Yes, I know everybody hates hard reset. It's we look at everything, and we try to make sure, of course, on our end, it's very, very difficult to try to make sure that an ability is going to be equally as interesting in PvP and in PvE. And in PvE, it's even like, is it going to be interesting for the single player trying to complete the story mission, or is it going to be interested for the person doing nightmare dungeons? It's people have very different need when they play the game. So we try to accommodate for everything. And a lot of the changes in this time that we said, as we said, we were really focused on new people coming to the game, spending 50 points to obtain an elite ability, and we wanted them to say, okay, I just spent those 50 APs, it took me a long time to get those 50 APs, and now I got something cool. And it looks cool, and it does something cool. So this was really like that step one, let's make sure all of these people are really happy with that. Now that we're redoing is, how can we make sure that all the people who play nightmare dungeons, for example, and when you play nightmare dungeon, of course, you hate the fact that an ability is going to be applying a hinder, like, or like it's going to be stunning or rooting or anything, because this is the kind of stuff you want to reserve for your tanks, so we can interrupt the abilities that you want interrupted. And we know those people are saying, okay, well, we don't have any options because we can only use do or die, because all of his availability is going to make the tank shout at me. We're aware of it. And we actually have solutions for this that are going to come up, like, you know, in stage 2 of those revamps. And then after that, we have like the PvP sections as well that we're looking at. I mean, we're looking at hard reset, most likely going to change, going to be tweaked at least soon-ish. And for this, we're still waiting on the feedback from PvP, because we know like hard reset in particular like was hated really on on the first day. But today we've got a lot of feedback from PvPers saying actually it's not that bad. Like, you know, like people were really speculating that it's going to be so dangerous and so many like one-shot kills and everything. And now people are saying, actually, it's a long cast. It's fairly easy. Like, it's obvious when someone is starting to cast. I have plenty of time to get out, like, of the 15-meter range. So, it's not that much of a problem.
Hard reset, Thor's Hammer, Red Mist. A lot of PvPers thought they were going to be big game changers. But I did ask tonight in the PvP channel how people were finding it, and still trying to get to grips with things, and just maybe too soon to say. But a lot of these changes were quite big for us, because the Great DPS nerf of 2015 was widely debated in PvP channels, as was the AoE nerf as well. That these are things that do have an impact on PvP.
Of course.
You know, we're not killing monsters. We're killing, well, some might say we are killing monsters. So it depends, I suppose. But I wanted to ask a question. It's come from Zinan on the forums. He says, I and many others are probably wondering why nerf, after stating on the last cast you had no interest in nerfing players. All the veterans will continue to blow content away regardless. So how do you feel this will impact on the less experienced geared players that are stepping into nightmares?
Again, as we were saying, it's like the word nerf makes people scared all the time. Like from our perspective, it's not really, it's not a nerf. It's adjusting abilities which were wrong since launch. So these were like the biggest nerf, these were the 50% nerf that we talked about. But it's, from our perspective, it's not a nerf. It's like we made a mistake from launch, and we can only apologize for keeping this that long, but we're just rectifying it. The 17% as well, like for my intention, is just saying like there's enough. We want to make the solo build more viable, and particularly Nightmare Dungeons. There's a lot of reason for you to use like solo builds still. Like the amount of trash you have in between. It's not a 17%. AoE nerf is really going to affect those people, and even on normal bosses, like it's not really a problem. The other reason that we have, like what some of the feedback that we got, is a lot of tanks saying, well, now it's because of the DPS nerf, it's so difficult to tank and to keep aggro on several targets because my AoEs have been reduced. Yet again, it goes back more into like. There's plenty of ways in the game, like for tanks, to actually hold aggro. It's just people have gotten to this way of saying in TSW the best way to do everything is just to DPS, and we don't necessarily want that. You know, we still have like aggro holding abilities that we're like, well, tanks, now it might be a time for you to go back and look at them again. Same as DPS, saying if you're having an issue with over aggroing and getting aggro over your tank, you might want to start looking at, you know, aggro reducing abilities or signets, all these kind of things.
Just on
they
that
are means.
point,
It's just getting people to try and use like the systems which are in game.
On the point of DPS system, just a moment ago you said that players don't like having roots, you know, giving roots with their abilities. What's the change with Do or Die? What's that all about?
I can't.
You know what I wanted to do with Do or Die, and Romain wanted to do with Do or Die? We wanted to make it have a dot that ticked 10% of your health down for every second it was up, but we were overruled.
It was part of the difficulty. Yeah, we wanted to make it that so when you I was gonna only it's like woulda coulda, but yeah, we wanted to make it that, and that it was actually a suggestion I think from the forums. But make it that as long as you have the ability running, your character is constantly dying, and then you need to do damage in order to keep your character up. If not, you're actually going to die. But we've had technical limitations in doing those things, like because I wanted to make sure that it would not mean if you did this, that would mean the healer would have to keep you up because it sort of defied the purpose. So it would be more of a question of you knowing when to pop it and making sure that once you popped it, you need to keep your DPS up, else you're going to die. It works well with the name, but technically we couldn't do it. It was getting very complex and had ways of breaking. So like, okay, let's go with another solution. Ending up with a route, and we're completely aware that that the Secret World is a game that requires a lot of movement, and so routing the players is mean, and we knew it was mean, but it was like it was to try and get people to think outside the box, saying, okay, there are other abilities that you can use on a monster which require you to move a lot. Don't use do or die. I mean, as simple as this. On other monsters, finding a 10-second window on which you could actually literally keep your character down is easy enough. So this is where came the idea of the route. Is like, okay, let's just let people like figure out when they can find the 10-second windows to actually do that burst damage which they like doing. Originally I even wanted to say, like, to compensate for this, I wanted to even increase the damage to like 30%, but again, it became like with systems saying, okay, maybe it's becoming too powerful in certain occasions because there are too many bosses where you can actually find a 10-second window where you do not have to move at all.
Now, you just said that you couldn't fully explain it, and now Joel very, very cryptically said that there would be something coming up in the Orochi dungeon that would explain this. What did you mean by that?
Oh, I mean, it's not the Orochi dungeon; it's all the dungeons. Where we've talked about a system that will make it will make all the elites that people are saying, well, we can't use them because they have secondary effects which cause problems for our tank. We're going to make that work better.
So is that a proposed change to the Rising Vigor system?
It's a proposed change to the boss immunity system that's done in the dungeons. Look, Romain and I fought very hard with the dungeon team before launch because we had experience with Age of Conan that you don't make bosses not have immunity.
There's many things in the dungeon that personally, I mean, as a player, I dislike. I dislike the fact that everything is interruptible, like, even though there are game systems, but it makes some fights who have like very strong designs. It allows players to find very simple ways of doing them. Like, to give you an example, is the one of the fights that I hate the most is the succubus in the first Hell dungeon, the one with all the dogs, and the one that has like the AoEs, like the donut AoE that force you to hug her, and she has a chain which forces people to spread. So from a design perspective, when you design a boss, you always design a base, not based on what so that's design 101 little lesson, but you never design based on what you want the boss to do. You design on best you want your players to do. And this boss has a very simple mechanic, which is I want my players to spread out. In order to do this, my boss is going to cast a chain lightning ability. So, if you're close to other people, the damage is going to spread to more people, so people will spread out. And then you want to tease, you want to trick players by saying, okay, well, now that you spread out, I want you to gather to one point. So this is how you do a donut AoE that will do a lot of damage. That is going to force all your players to stack up on the boss, and then they will spread again because the next thing that might happen is going to be a chain. So it's just a very, very simple mechanic: spread, stack up, spread, stack up.
It's the hokey pokey.
Yeah. But then this boss has been made that the ability that forces everybody to stack up can be interrupted, and of course, as a player, you're always going to choose the path of your least resistance, which means it must be interrupted. Like for all the fights, whenever I do this fight, I never see a DPS even trying to move because you always trust your tank, you always trust that this ability, no matter what, is going to be interrupted. So it turns every single fight almost into like a tank and spank mechanic, which is what, if you ask any player saying, do you like a tank and spank fight? Everybody's going to say no. But they're going to do anything they can in a fight to turn it into a tank and spank because this is the fastest way to your loot. And
That's true.
And adding those immunities for us is a way to say, okay, well, we're still going to force people to play the game and to do it. And once they do it, they still have fun, right? But it's just so changing it now, it's probably too late because it would make people very, very annoyed. I much prefer like making fights with the ideas that most of the ability cannot be interrupted unless an ability is designed to be interrupted. So people will know you do a fight and now he's going to cast this kind of a apocalypse spell, and I'm sure Joshua would name it a lot better, but as soon as you see this spell, this is the one that you have to concentrate, and and interrupt.
So
So-
you've talked about many different abilities that we know from the patch notes that have been changed, but you've also touched upon saying that there are some incoming changes still. So there's a second part to all of this that perhaps you might be revisiting certain changes that you have made based on the player feedback.
Definitely. I mean, we always listen to what you guys have to say. So, anything that makes people particularly unhappy,
Change,
we-
do or die.
I mean, we always try to gauge, how many people are truly unhappy, because I mean, you would see the feedback. We read everything, we get in many ways, and it's, you never get players to even agree on what they dislike. So people will dislike things for the sake of disliking, and some people will will love everything, and so we always try to find what is the just middle, and then we always try to, at the end of the day, if anything happens, we try to stick to our vision, what it is that we want the game to be, and if the players can't agree, we'll make that decision at the end of the day. Do or die, I don't want to change. I'm quite happy with the way it is.
I think
to go with
it's really important to point out that if we pass our statistics and 98% of DPS running Nightmare Dungeons are using one particular ability, then that fucking ability is broken.
Yeah. The biggest thing with Do or Die, and this is what I wanted to get at, is yes, as Joel mentioned, I mean, this is literally everybody used it. Like you use it for the New York raid, as well as doing it for every single Nightmare Dungeon. And I completely understand that the reason why you use it is because there's no good alternative. And the changes that we made that went live yesterday with the Elite did not give that many good alternatives still, because a lot of the abilities, like it's as simple as this, a lot of the abilities still have secondary effects. And those secondary effects, for us, they're important because it makes the new players happy. This is what they want. They love the fact an ability is going to do a lot of damage and stun. But the nightmare customer, I want to say, is going to hate that fact. They're going to hate that stun. So we came with this is when we have in this plan B we want to do. We sort of came up with an idea which I really don't want to explain. I don't want to ruin the surprise, but we came with a way that is going to make players, I hope, go back and finally revisit all these abilities. Like once it's live, they're going to go back and say, okay, I'm going to care. Now, Do or Die is just a valid option among so many others, based on whichever weapon I want to choose. I'm really going to have any of the elites. I'll be able to use any of them in any situation.
Well, just a little feedback as a DPS. I mean, one of the biggest issues, the main reason we always use Do or Die is because there are a lot of elites that are really good, but they have hinders and impairs. And when you've got diminishing returns on your hinders and impairs on the bosses with certain abilities that must be impaired, you can't have the DPS using them. The amount of times we've done nightmares, with a newbie through, and it's all of a sudden things, you start hitting a few stumbling blocks.
I agree.
And you realize
it's a terrible idea to have bosses not having complete immunity to all those things. And as Romain mentioned, that's something that we need to address. I think it was bad design from the beginning.
Completely aware of it, yeah. But we have several ways of fixing it. Moving forward in dungeons, we're gonna have ways using immunities to make those abilities just by default. People won't care. But we also have, as I just mentioned, another solution which I think will be great. The only thing is you just need to take my word for it for now until we can implement it. But our goal is to make sure that every player who plays Nightmare Dungeon will see every elite abilities as viable. They won't care that they have secondary effects, because it won't be a problem. If you use hard reset and it causes an extra hinder on the on your target, it won't be a problem because you will still be able to interrupt the ability that you need to interrupt later on. Your tank is not going to shout at you, so you're going to be able to just do your DPS the way you want to.
That's super interesting. Now, Joel, in your director's letter, you mentioned 2015 would involve dungeons, plural. Now, with what you're just saying there with Tilty, does that mean that there's going to be a dungeon revamp, or there's going to be more than one dungeon this year?
I refuse to say anything on the grounds that it may incriminate either of us.
Works for me.
I
You cut out.
There are.
Need to
Right,
fix
he's
the
being
satellite uplink.
yeah, he's been cut for a while, but yeah, we're not going to answer this, but
You're pleading the fifth, yeah.
it is not a typo.
Okay, question about the feedback. Some players, considering all just the sheer amount of changes, there was a lot of players who were testing stuff on Test Live, and some players have expressed after everything went live, they expressed their displeasure, shall we call it that, by saying that they provided feedback and have felt that it was completely ignored. Now, Joel, you posted, and I believe to some extent you, Tilty, as well, you posted replies on Test Live about how you guys process the feedback given to you. And everyone has access to Test Live. Maybe you could touch up on that again and explain to players why certain feedback they feel is being ignored.
Whoa, that's a big question.
Okay. Well, I mean, there's a bunch of stuff. I can go through the early stuff if I'm not getting cut off. Am I here?
Yep. We can hear
Excellent.
you.
Go for it. Go through the list.
So, like, first of all, players never agree on anything. So let's be clear.
We all
Neither do
agree you're
designers.
awesome.
I don't know if that's true. I've seen some pretty interesting comments.
Well,
Nah.
if I can interject for a second, the Twitch chat channel agrees that you're awesome. A lot of them are upset that you're no longer going to be the lead. You're the lead here, and people in the chat in the game are all saying the same thing. We have Argartha packed right now, listening to you and Tilty right now, and they're here because we've been tweeting about you and Tilty. And both, this is a credit to both of you guys. Okay, I just want to say that first and clear right now. They're here for both of you. And yes, they don't agree on a lot of things. A lot of people are still a little bit, tweaked, but they all still share their love.
Nah, mate, I disagree. I actually think they're only here just for the dances that Tilty's been teasing us with.
Are you doing new dances, Tilty?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Fair enough. You know that you're going to have to appear in giant form during all the anniversary events from now on.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Excellent.
I want him to turn me into the Vangarian.
Our engine.
For whatever, that dude.
I don't think the animations will sync up too well.
Now, with the new player experience...
Hang on. Let Joel answer the question about the feedback.
Yeah, sorry. So players never agree. Neither do developers, right? That's really important. Like Romain and I, the number of fights just the two of us have about minor details, and then like you get 5 of us in a room and it's pretty much a shit fight. So developers don't agree. Inviting a huge number of players to that conversation infinitely complicates the conversation. And also, our goals aren't always transparent because if we reveal our goals to players too early, then they will give feedback on the goals themselves. And often then we want to do something. I talked about the scenario example, right? If we told people about the 3 types of scenario we were interested in making, and then they had actually... and then they'd voted on which one they liked, but we only had time to implement the one that they got, they'd be pissed because we ignored their feedback. But you don't want to bring people into that process too early, because at some point it just doesn't work. As a development team, you don't necessarily know the limitations of what we can do, both budget and engine-wise. And we need to communicate with you when we're in a position to do things. And I feel like the feedback on Test Live on the stuff, like first of all, I actually didn't know we were patching this week. I guess that makes me a very bad ex-game director. I actually had written... So you saw the game director letter and had this really vague statement about how long the EPE would be on Test Live and all this sort of stuff. It's actually, I had written when it would come out, and marketing changed that because they weren't sure. So that sentence got changed from like, oh, it'll be on Test Live gathering feedback for another week and then we'll patch it. And then it actually became like, well, it'll be on Test Live and then we'll patch it sometime soon. So it became really vague. And that's just the nature of development. And I think the feedback like that we get from people, we have these meetings at work where we sat down, we went through all the feedback from Test Live when I was in the US. We
Oh, you cut out.
It's cut as well. So I'll just take on from what you're saying. We're the same person. We're in the same brain. But yeah,
Sorry.
Well, there you go. You can finish your own sentence.
No, I was just saying that when we were in the US, we sat down and we had that meeting where we had all the feedback from Test Live on a massive sheet. And we went through each and every individual feedback on every ability, and we had a discussion about it where we were like, is this valid? Are they just complaining because they're losing a small percentage here, or are they actually making a valid point about how this affects the mechanics of the game? And there's plenty of valid feedback, and there were plenty of changes made based on that feedback. So I think it's very unfair to say that we don't listen, but I think sometimes our goal and what we know is coming, as Romain said, there's a second part to the Elite revamp. I think that we know this and we can't necessarily talk about it is a hindrance occasionally, and it makes people think that we're ignoring them when in fact we're like, no, we just have a better plan. We can't tell you yet.
I mean, it's difficult as well because we have, the one very important thing as well is it's making a game is not that simple. Sometimes a lot of suggestions that we're getting sound great on paper but might not work. But one of the biggest thing as well is even if it might work in another game, they might not work for TSW because they might simply not work in our tech or in our engine. This is what we know, like the team. So we often try to sometimes grab suggestion. If we feel they're valid, we're going to try to find a way to translate it into something that might work for us. Sometimes the translation just really doesn't work. It loses so much from the original intention that we're like, okay, let's not even do this. And the other thing I do want to say is it's sometimes if we don't answer a thread, it doesn't mean that we haven't read it. It doesn't mean that we disagree with it. It doesn't mean that we, ignoring you. We have read it. Always assume that we've read everything, and it just means like literally we are swamped. We're trying to do everything, and sometimes it's just better for us to just go ahead and start doing the changes rather than going back and going into like a forum argument or and yes, you can say it would take a second to just tell someone, okay, we're doing this, but doing this we just spam, like we just create so many other players coming in saying, well, but I disagree with it, my idea was better and then you should have done this instead, and it starts this kind of a problem where you end up just not moving. And our policy really is always to try like move forward, like be proactive and be creative and make things happen. So it's I feel like we have a fairly good, like as a company we have a fairly good grip at this, and we're trying to be very good to our community, but it's there's a threshold that we have to meet or to respect.
Could I lead on from that and just it's a question that's come from the forums, and it's about feedback in a certain way from Thief. He said, Joel, is nobody reading the in-game bug reporting tool reports? If not, why would Funcom not remove it from the game?
Right. You should submit bugs through the petition system, not through that tool. That was for beta, and it doesn't do anything in the game now.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think that's one of the biggest thing. It's not hooked into something that is actually being read. And yeah, I mean, this is a good point. I mean, we need to have a look a way at disabling the tool. Which, as we mentioned earlier, might actually not be the simplest thing. And sometimes, if you realize it's going to take us a week to disable that tool, and in a week we could have had the fast travel system, we might be okay. It's probably better to do fast travel for everybody rather than disabling a tool. And we can mention it now, and I think it's been mentioned before, but of course it's not lasting. Like this information eventually get lost. So
okay, so
what are
I was just going to say it's down to priorities then, basically. So the in-game bug reporting tool isn't linked to anything, and it's going to stay there for the immediate future then?
It links to, sorry, I was facetious. It links to a system, but it doesn't. That system was made for beta and doesn't have the same, like we used to use it for checking all the bugs in the game. Now we have more automated systems for that, and we use CS. CS is much more important. Customer service give us like a list every day of the top reported bugs from the community, their top reports, their top things that they have to deal with. So we get much more information from that and from our service statistics.
So it's best to go through that then. And could I just apologise to Sicey if it's a she?
So the best ways to actually report a bug on the live server is to use the petition and contact the customer service and then report it that way. Whereas on
or put it on the forums. I mean, the forums get checked for this stuff.
forum, are we talking about test live forums or forums for the live game?
If it's
Both.
an exploit, it should be on test live. Anything else, feel free to just report it on any other forums, and we'll look at it. It will come to us. Like it doesn't matter. Like, because as we were saying earlier, like even if a dev might not read a thread in particular, we have people literally that do this all day, and they will transmit like any kind of interesting post, anything that they know. Okay, they probably don't know about this, and they'll give us links. You know, I receive like so many links every day saying, "Oh, have you seen this? Have you already seen that post or anything? Like this is interesting, or is something we should look at, or something I agree with." And so yeah, the information will come to us. It's just don't use the direct bug report. Like if it's through a petition, it's going to give a bit more work to a customer service person, which that's why I would not necessarily recommend it. But the information might be said if you think it's crucial. Forums are definitely the best place for direct communication.
Okay, thanks for clarifying that.
So with those posts that are getting forward to you, what percentage of those are pictures of ponies from Surity?
It's days of work.
Okay. Anyway, back to the new player experience. I noticed you've added the fusion rating, and I was wondering, will that be a correct representation of players' gear, especially considering the different roles that you're able to take in the game? Wouldn't it be a little bit misleading? And to follow on from that, how better is it at comparing gear than the system that we already had in place, where you get hover over tooltips showing the difference in stats?
I mean, the fusion rating, I think a lot of people are trying to make it be something that it isn't. On our perspective, it's a very, very cheap implementation of using data that we pretty much had, that we just decided to display to the players. It's literally just allowing to very quickly see if the stat of an item compared to another, if that item is better. Like, as I try to explain, is a lot of people get afraid of stats. Like a lot of the new players, they go in there and they don't want to look at the stat. They just want to know if this item better than another. Something that a lot of game use, they just use the level of the item will give you this, but we don't have level. I mean, we have quality level, but then you go into this question is like, is a blue quality level 5 item better than a green QL6 item, for example? And sometimes it's difficult to tell the answer unless you relook at the stats and start comparing everything. So the effusion rating is just a quick way for people to say, yes, the one who has a higher effusion rating is likely better to you. As a hardcore person, you're going to be like, this is completely wrong. It's going to depend on the role you're trying to do. It's going to depend, it doesn't mean like you should go and try to get a high fusion rating, because this one is definitely for a tank, this one is definitely like for a DPS, or this one is for like it has better crit than this one has better penetration, or this kind of thing. You have all these questions as a hardcore person, like it's important to you, but the fusion rating is not for that. It's also the reason why we show the average. I'm hoping is just to make people easier, like people are trying to do elite dungeon, and even the beginning of Nightmare, they'll be able to say, my fusion rating is, I don't know, I don't even know how far it goes, like 100 and 105, and it will give people a chance to say, okay, well, this guy has like QL 10.0s blues, and yes, he might be able to start doing Nightmare dungeon, and it will, like in channel like Sanctuary, it will allow people to say, okay, you have this, and this is the fusion rating that you need, and then we'll take you in, and then you'll be able to survive, and you'll be able to start understanding the end game of the game. But because what people are using right now in the game, you see like all this kind of looking for group. I mean 10.4.4, and what does it mean to a new player? It's very scary. Like it's a lot of numbers. It's comma delimited, and of course it's a better system. Like it takes into account signets and everything that you have to really explain your power. But yeah, the effusion rating is not for that. It's just very simple. It's just there to allow people to just quickly gauge how good their current equipment is, and if a piece that they just got is potentially better or not. Depending on how it goes, again, like this is step one of this. Like if we get good suggestions, if we realize the hardcore people want to use it, we'll try to find a way to make it more accurate. But by making it more accurate, I don't want it to become scary to the more casual people.
And Joel, you said you fought tooth and nail with marketing in the past not to use the term gear score due to the negative connotations in other games. Yet the new player experience email that went out used the phrase. What happened there?
I'm not the game director anymore. I can say this. Whatever. I went to marketing when I found out what the mail said today, and I asked them why they used it, and their response was the most mature possible response you can give in a situation like that, which was, well, you claim that you're the game director and you get to name the thing in the game. We get to call it whatever we want in our mails to the community.
Nice.
Mature indeed.
So that was an interesting chat. No, I went in there and yelled at them, and they weren't very repentant, to put it that way, because they think a Fusion Rating's a dumb name.
Lol, what? You have a marketing department? Sorry, I had to dig.
Yeah, I wanted to ask about that.
Yeah, glad you did.
Yeah, there's a lot of players in the community that feel that marketing TSW could be a lot better, and that it could be stepped up. For now, we feel like we're the ones marketing, not Beyond, but the players are marketing the game the best. So, it's like anything you guys in the marketing department that could do to kind of step up the marketing efforts and get the word about.
I mean, it's quite technical. Oh, it's not technical. You'll understand it very easily, but it's not necessarily what people want to hear about in this chat. But for a long time, a percentage of our budget, our profit, goes to the marketing department, who then spend it on commercials and things for the game. And that's just been a set factor for a long time. Recently, we've made a change whereby the producer, Scott, will have control of the marketing budget rather than that budget just going directly to the marketing department. So I imagine that Scott will then now make choices about how to use the marketing budget for the game in the way that he sees best. So the team and Romain and people like that will see it as the best way.
But I have to be... Sorry, go ahead.
No, and I don't want to disparage our marketing team. For the size of our company, they're a very small marketing team. Teams like Blizzard and stuff, they have so many more people. It's unbelievable. And the ratio we have is terrible of number of marketing people to actual game developers. So they're pretty stripped down and pretty stressed, and they have a lot of stuff to do. So it's no disrespect to them. I think they do what they can, but there's going to be a bit of a change in the way we do marketing, and I think that'll be interesting because it'll be back in the hands of the team.
I wanted to give credit where credit was due in the fact that we actually now receive the emails about things before they go live, whereas before we didn't receive it at all, and there were a lot of players complaining about that. So we have seen some improvement there. So just giving credit where credit is due.
I'd like to ask about that. For almost every single release that I can think of, it's sort of just been out of nowhere. There hasn't been much warning. Like this, the new player experience, it was just there. It just appeared. And if it was to encourage new players to join the game, why wasn't there a bit of a hype build-up? Wasn't there a marketing campaign building up to a set release date? Instead of just, surprise, here it is.
So now we don't know whether Joel is being cut off or he's just thinking what to answer.
Danger, rerouting satellite.
Yeah, he got disconnected, I just realized.
Would you have anything to say about that, Tilty?
So I'll have to admit that I did not listen.
He's been absolutely swamped in the game with PMs.
It's so bad. I have so many my chat is, and so I've been trying the fact as soon as you said Joel, I was like, okay, I don't have to listen to this one. So I went in there and tried to answer some of the questions, and of course. so there you go.
All right, Tilty, got a question for you. Joel's back. Welcome back.
My internet just booted me the hell out. That was crazy. I don't know what I was saying.
Yeah, so
you put me in
now
trouble.
that he's back, Now that he's back, how about you know, say to his face what you've just been saying to him, eh?
He knows.
I didn't hear anything.
Why don't you set a release date and then have marketing building up to that, rather than
Ah,
just surprise, here's the next
so
update.
with something like this, it's better to release it, iron out the bugs, and then do a marketing push, which is the plan.
So there is method to the madness.
Yeah, it's absolutely like it's you do a hype run for something like an issue or an expansion, but you definitely don't do it for something where you're changing core mechanics and you want to test and make sure that those are all good. You do that after you're confident that it's had the desired effect that you want it to have. And to be fair, I think there's been a lot of talk on. I've seen a lot of the comments on Massively and MMORPG under the interviews and articles that Romain has been doing with them, where people are like, "Oh, I'm going to reinstall the game." And that's a good start, but that's the MMO core audience. When we really want to do a marketing push, you'll know, and we'll be getting the word out. But we want to make sure it's ready for that.
But of course, also, like, you know, what you guys are doing right now is something which, you know, we're very glad that you're doing. Like, it's great to us. Like, you know, it allows us to get the word out, and hopefully we'll get people to come back and try the game again. So it's you know, it's awesome to see everybody chipping in. Yeah, I also think Joel has said everything really about this, and it was a good thing. You know, keep in mind, you know, when we released, we had like a fairly bad bug that happened yesterday when if someone would log off while dead, you would not be able to log back into the game. And, you know, this was due to like the hundreds of changes that have happened. We, you know, when we tested it, it never happened to us. And then we realized it yesterday after this patch went live. It was like, wow, you know, this is a really bad patch, a very bad issue, because of course it can happen to anyone. You can be disconnected at any time in an MMO, like, you know, whether it's your ISP or anything. And then not being able to log back in the game is terrible. So we saw it right away. We were able to iron out this issue, like, you know, today. This is what the patch was for, and at least we won't have this once we've done the marketing push. Like, people will be able to log into a game which is at least stable and all properly tested content.
Mm-hmm. So we should be able to see more advanced warning of exactly when an issue will come out in the future.
On issues, yeah, usually, like, we work internally towards like a deadline. You know, we have like deadlines that we always try to meet. Then we always try to put everything on test live, and usually based on the feedback on test live, we say, okay, we are where we want to be, or some massive issue just came out and we're going to have to postpone. So this is why we always try to be careful in how far ahead of time we say it, because we never know when we go on test live. Sometimes we put it on test live saying we've tested everything, we're fairly confident, we don't need to leave it on test live for very long, and then something happens. You're like, oh, okay, great, we're going to have to postpone by a week. So if we don't push ahead of time by saying, everybody, this is coming next week, then people get disappointed, etc. So we're trying to be careful. And but yeah, we're trying to be better with marketing, and we're gonna have like more control as well of it, like in Durham itself, like with everything which is happening. So hopefully we'll yeah, this will improve.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Okay, I have 2 questions. One is a question so that I'll get a cookie, so I get a perk out of this. Now, Katarina 1 wants to know from you, you guys. Do you guys love Katarina 1?
Undoubtedly.
So that's a yes.
Without reservation.
So there you go, Katarina 1.
Wholeheartedly.
Now I want my cookie. Now I do actually have a very heated question that's been popping up in my feeds here. They actually have a question about, since we're talking about marketing, a little while ago an email was put out from the marketing department saying, hi, you know, come, you know, become a Grandmaster in the Secret World with lots of perks, a second copy of the game. Now this was also put onto the forums, albeit not by the devs. By someone who had received this email with a link, and then a lot of people followed this link back, and some which they could not actually go and purchase it. Now some people did follow it up by contacting support because they wanted to buy the Grandmaster's pack for the Secret World with all the different perks, and they said that they were not qualified or did not fit the criteria or whatnot however it is that they said they did not qualify to get the Grandmaster's pack. Now, these were a lot of these people that we have talked to were subscribing people, so they're wondering what your guys' thoughts were on this, if you could answer.
Personally, I have absolutely no idea. I don't really know how this system works. The best is just to contact customer support, and they will be able to actually give them an answer. Look at the account and tell them exactly what is going on.
Well, actually,
Oh,
don't
Joel
contact
knows
us.
something.
Well, like, so
I made it sound like such a surprise.
Well, I mean,
Sorry.
if we're testing a sales initiative, right, we might test it on a select group of people, and then so the people who don't qualify might just not qualify because they're not part of the group that was selected to be tested on. And there's different requirements for that, and that's a sales and marketing sort of prerogative and tactic, because they might want to see how it works with. Okay, we're going to do it to North American customers and see how it works for them. Or we're going to do it to, we're going to test with the Irish. That's a very common thing. We're going to test in the Irish territory because it's English speaking and there's not a lot of people. It's not like a huge population, and we
Not
just
the
want to see.
Scottish.
Well, yeah, I mean, too many angry emails from the Scots. But
No
so
comment.
so they might be testing something, and then someone, it's sort of natural that people talk about these things, and maybe people post it on the forums. But then if their account's not eligible, it's not, CS can't do anything about that. They might be testing something here or there, and in this particular case,
I think in this case we're able to tell you why more, because you were talking about
no, we won't give out
Grandmaster
reasons.
accounts.
That's the thing. In that case,
Okay.
they won't give out reasons.
Because
because marketing won't tell them.
There should be nothing. There should be no reason why you can't upgrade to a Grandmaster plan.
I think it was because of the perks, so.
It was a special. It was a special thing where
yeah.
Romain, it was a special thing where we were basically game out the same value or $100 of value in addition to the Grandmaster for the same price. And
I didn't know about that.
Like that's I mean that's like a sales and marketing run initiative, and they want to test like, oh, maybe this works well, maybe it doesn't. We want to see if we entice people to buy the Grandmaster with this in this territory, and we want to see if that works well to boost our numbers at a certain time. And so, like, I can't say that CS would actually have that information as to why the accounts might not be allowed to upgrade or not. It's worth contacting them just to find out. But I sometimes marketing and sales marketing, and they test things out and they try things out. I mean, we tried out like a smaller installer for the game as well, and it was an A/B test, which means half the people who download the game get the smaller installer and half the people don't. And that's just because we want to see if more people download the game and what happens.
I did contact them. And yeah. And I didn't get an answer.
Okay.
All right.
She is Scottish.
So moving on, more questions about the new fun stuff, and I am sporting one of the lovely new shirts from the new vendors tonight. The question is, do the two new fashion vendors in the Haitian market in London have the clothes that were meant for the Pangea update?
Yes, they do.
Woohoo!
Nice
So how
quick
many days
answer.
will they rotate?
They're very
Because it's a
pretty, and thank you
rotating.
so much.
Yeah, it is awesome. I'm just wondering how much of that content has made it into the game. So it's a rotating on 24-hour basis. How many days?
7 days. So it's
Wow.
I mean, literally, like when we started looking at the update for Pangea, there was just so much to give out. They were like, okay, we're gonna have to add like 10 new vendors to Pangea. It's gonna be ridiculous. There's gonna be, it's the only store in the world where you have more salesmen than actual customers. So we decided to go another way, and then we thought like, this idea of having like kind of graveyard scavengers would work
Romain's
really well.
never been
with,
to an Apple store, by the way.
That is true. Well, no, they have a lot of people usually in there, unless you go. If haven't
Romain's
released
never been
anything
to a
in while.
Microsoft store, by the way.
Yeah, actually,
Touche.
I love this. I love the style of the vendors too. They just look
Yeah,
absolutely awesome over there.
we were happy with it. And then just to answer your question, Antida, it's so we are on a 7-day rotation, and it's gonna be the same store. So if it's something that you see on a Monday that you might not have enough cash to be able to buy, which would be fairly impossible, but you never know. If you're a big spender in this game, you can always go back and find the same thing next Monday. And then we're going to try in the future to keep adding things to those stores, so there's always going to be a reason to go back and try to check with vendors and see if it might be something new to one of the days.
Nice. I am going
cool.
broke big time.
So
But
am
I'm not gonna go
I.
broke. I'm not gonna go broke on those hot dogs that you can get now from New York. We've talked about it before on the show, Tilty. Someone had initiated that thought on the forums, and when I brought it up to you, you said it was really, really interesting. And later on, you even came with an update that you've said that, hey, you've just had a meeting yesterday about it. And now it's made its way into the games. And kudos to whoever came up with this plus, I don't know, penetration rating for 20 minutes. Because tacos now also get a buff. And what was it? Noodles at Seoul as well?
Mm-hmm.
That is pretty awesome.
Good. I'm glad you like it. I mean, this was literally just a little thing I wanted to do when we started thinking about it, and this actually came spawned from you guys because you've been asking a lot to get a hot dog vendor in New York since there was the stand and everything. And surprisingly, I mean, this is actually something that has been asked a lot on the forums. And so we thought this EP update was just perfect. As I mentioned before, it was a matter of getting the right priority, doing it at the right time. And so this is part of the extra stuff I just added on the list of saying, let's just sneak this in. And then since we were adding new hot dogs, we were okay, it would be great to actually make a slight difference in bonus, and having a reason for people to choose. I'd rather eat hot dog or tacos, and giving a very tiny statistical boost. And so we came up with a very simple design, implemented in a short amount of time, and then we got all this. And then just as a little scoop, in one of the future updates, you will be able to buy hot dogs in stacks of 50. Unless he made it live today, he will make it live very soon. And then there might also be an achievement related item to get potentially in the future.
Yeah.
Oh my
let's
god,
go
Romain,
ask.
you just
Fantastic.
wow. I can't
Yes,
believe you
the
told him that,
achievements.
Romain.
You might wanna
That's the biggest.
add. Yeah, you might want to add maybe a vampire to a store randomly somewhere, and give people rats and earthworms, and that has a leeching crit.
Wow.
So while you're just throwing out spoilers here, your roadmap didn't mention
Oh, that's the
the
only
Orcs
spoiler that's
weapon.
coming out. You were allowed one spoiler, and that was it.
Oh,
Romain hates my
damn.
design.
We wasted it on hot dogs.
Yep,
Mm.
you got it
But
now.
yeah,
I was about
Joel,
to
your
tell you how
roadmap.
issue 11 finishes, but
Romain hates my Orcs weapon design, so it'll never happen.
Yeah, your roadmap didn't mention the Orcs weapon. It mentioned a lot of things, but has the Orcs weapon been shelved at the moment, along with any Southern Kaidan side story packs?
Romain just hates the Orcs weapon so much that he's not going to do my design for that awesome,
that's pretty much the
amazing
only answer you
Orcs
need,
weapon
guys.
mission.
Oh, come on, Tilty. How hard can it be to design a mirror?
Oh wow! Oh my! When it comes to spoilers, this is amazing. I don't want to say it has been shelved because we do want to complete all the Ox weapons. I mean, as you can see, we have wheels with holes in it, and if it's something I hate is having incomplete type of leveling bars or any kind of thing. My OCD just triggers, and then I hate seeing the way the auxiliary wheel looks right now. So we will update it. But the point, as everything, is just finding the right priority. Right now, we really want to focus on the story, finishing issue 11. After that, we have promised dungeons for a long time and everything. So we're going to try to... We just need to see as a team for us to see when we're going to have time to do all the animations required, all the effects required, and all the system time. And we'll... yeah, and then we'll get it in. As Joel has teased you, the mission to get the next auxiliary weapon is absolutely fantastic. It is probably some of I'll keep the teasing, but Joel's best work. Honestly, it's also extremely ambitious, and to do it justice, we're going to need to spend some time on it. So it's we're trying to figure out how we can do all of it. If we're going to be able to do the design the way it is right now, if we're going to have to simplify it somehow, and then get the weapon and everything. It's just like those Ox weapons are expensive to develop, but
Yeah,
that
that's
doesn't
fair
mean we're
enough.
not going to do it.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
talking about timing,
the just cut out. All I heard was it's some of Joel's, and